Time now for today's Focus Report, for which we head to Burma. Now, the Rohingyas are considered by the UN as the world's most persecuted minorities. Their problems largely ignored by the rest of the Burmese population. Well, one Rohingya Muslim told France 24 that soldiers arrest all males over 10, and if there are no men, they instead rape the women. Well, the army says they're cleaning up, but the population says they're actually causing the violence. France 24's Clovis Casale sent us this report.
At the end of this discreet alley lies Rangoon's only Rohingya mosque. It's named Rakhine after the state where these men come from, Muslims on their guard.
Look, they removed the letters that formed the name of our mosque. We've now put up a CCTV camera. I've been told monks did that. People were saying there should be no Muslims in Rakhine State. Sorry, but it could be dangerous for us if I say more.
The Rohingya Muslim ethnic group faces widespread discriminations in a country dominated by Buddhists. The United Nations say it's the world's most persecuted minority. Close to 1 million Rohingya live in the Rakhine state in difficult conditions and deprived of the right to move freely. Maung Nu is a Rohingya politician whose party's offices were recently searched by police. For no reason, he says. He speaks as often as possible to his family stuck in Rakhine, including his 92-year-old mother. He's extremely worried with the army carrying out a large-scale offensive after a police unit suffered a deadly attack in October. Authorities spoke of an act of terrorism from Rohingya men, and the military's response led 70,000 people to flee to neighbouring Bangladesh.
Soldiers arrest all males who are over 10 years old. When there are no men, they rape the women. They claim they're cleaning up the area, but it's the violence they're committing that's pushing people to flee. Our situation is worse than ever. Aung San Suu Kyi does nothing for us. I believe that now in Burma, there are in fact two different and distinct governments in power.
Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi governs with the army, and they've dismissed allegations of human rights violations. In January, the government launched for the first time an investigation after this video was leaked on social media. It showed troops deployed in northern Rakhine beating an unarmed Rohingya man. The footage had little impact on public opinion in Burma, a country stuck in decades of civil war. The town of Bago was once the capital of the kingdom. Like elsewhere in Burma, it appears most of the people have turned their backs on the Rohingya. The Muslim minority is also denied citizenship, accused of having migrated from Bangladesh.
I support the army. They do what they have to do. If these people don't want peace, then the army just has to fight them till the end.
While we film, undercover policemen head towards us, as well as the regional chief of the Ministry of Information. He insists on taking a picture of our press cards and then accepts to talk about the Rohingya.
Well, you know, our country still has a limited knowledge about human rights. That's why we shouldn't use that framework when looking at possible violations. We're still learning.
Minutes later, during an interview in a different part of town, the immigration police stops us. Our Burmese colleague answers their questions. Forces will then call us several times to know exactly where we are and where we're going. Authorities appear increasingly keen to monitor the work of journalists in Burma. It remains impossible to travel to northern Rakhine, where events sparked criticism from abroad. Some in the international community have also expressed concerns over the growing violence, with the murder end of January of a Muslim figure. Suu Kyi was a prominent lawyer close to the ruling NLD party. He was shot by a hitman outside Rangoon's airport, and thousands from all communities gathered for his funeral.
For all of us in this country, Suu Kyi was a guide on the road towards democracy. That's why we just all feel so sad.
The murder of Suu Kyi shocked the nation, notably Muslims and the Rohingya minority. He was a human rights advocate who fought for more equality in Burma.
Today's Focus report coming from our team on the ground in Burma. To talk more about this, though, Mark Farminer is Director of Burma Campaign UK. He joins us via Skype now. Mr. Farminer, thank you very much for speaking to France 24. Now, the UN has recently released a report detailing mass gang rape, killing, brutal beatings, plus the disappearance of Rohingya Muslims. Is this something that your society, or as the Director of Burma Campaign UK, you corroborate?
Yes, this is consistent with the reports that we've received and other human rights organisations have received, and many media who've managed to interview some of the Rohingya who fled to neighbouring Bangladesh. It's just incredible stories of horrific cruelty, of children having their throats slit when they're trying to protect their mother from rape, of families being burned in their homes. And the UN report has found that over half of the women they interviewed had experienced rape or sexual violence.
So sexual violence, then, we could say being used as something as a weapon of war more and more.
It is, and this is consistent with what the Burmese army has been doing for decades against other ethnic minorities in the country. So there's a pattern that this is how the Burmese army operates. It targets civilians, it burns villages, they use rape as a weapon of war, they execute people arbitrarily and torture them as well. What we're seeing here, the UN have said could be possible crimes against humanity, yet we're seeing a surprising lack of any strong response from the international community.
Now, Burma security forces have a very clear response to this. They say these are clearance operations, in fact, needed to increase security in certain areas, certainly Rakhine State.
Well, when this began was following an attack on a police border guard post where 9 police officers were killed back in October. Was the start of it. This was the response from the government and the military to this. But there's no evidence that there is any serious organised armed insurgency. We've had 70,000 people flee to neighbouring Bangladesh alone in response to only 2 incidents of violence that have taken place. So it's completely disproportionate. And at the same time, as the military are committing these abuses, you've got the government of Burma denying that they're even taking place.
I mean, you touched on people fleeing there to Bangladesh. One of the reasons that the government has said that they're going to be denied citizenship in many senses. How are people living when they cross over into Bangladesh?
Well, unfortunately, Bangladesh treats the Rohingya refugees in quite an appalling way. Very few are allowed official refugee status. Some of the Rohingya who fled to Bangladesh in recent years have described being shot at as they try to cross the river to try to prevent them from entering. And the Bangladesh government's latest plan is to try to move many of these Rohingya refugees to what is effectively a mud bank, a new island off the coast of Bangladesh, which is underwater for part of the year, and to place them all there because the government of Burma refused to take them back.
Mr. Farminer, I think you saw that report there that we all just watched. One Rohingya Muslim saying that the government is doing absolutely nothing to help them. A serious allegation, some may say. Again, does that corroborate what you're hearing from people on the ground?
Yes, and it's not just that the government is doing nothing to help. They're actually defending and protecting the Burmese army who are committing these offences. Aung San Suu Kyi, the effective ruler of the government, her official Facebook page has been having constant reports denying the human rights violations, even with flashing signs saying fake rape, fake rape. So there the propaganda that's coming from the government is telling the people in the country that these human rights violations are not taking place, that it's all false foreign conspiracies, which is not the case at all. And this isn't what we would have expected from what's now an elected NLD-led government, the party that's fought for human rights and democracy in Burma for 20 years, now denying the rights and denying abuses are taking place against the Rohingya minority.
Now, Aung San Suu Kyi has recently said she intends to investigate these claims. For your organisation, it's simply not enough, one would imagine.
Well, the investigation that she has created into these human rights violations has already published an interim report which said there's no evidence of these human rights violations, that they can't be substantiated. And it's led by a former general who himself has been linked with multiple human rights violations. So it has no credibility at all, which is why we're saying that we now need to see the United Nations establish its own independent commission of inquiry. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has just today come out and saying that this is what's needed. We can't rely on the government of Burma or the military to investigate these abuses. It needs now to have an independent international investigation, and we need to see the US, the European Union and other international organisations starting to come on board, because so far their response has been virtual silence on this issue.
OK, Mark Farmaner, you're Director of Burma Campaign UK. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.